Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes: Pro-democracy HK tycoon Jimmy Lai's trial begins. Secret spaceplane, links between China's most powerful leaders, 5 weekend reads. Arrested in 2020, Hong Kong pro-democracy tycoon gets day in court. Historic trial against Hong Kong media tycoon charged under national security law begins. Hong Kong's rebel mogul and pro-democracy voice. Pro-democracy HK tycoon Jimmy Lai's trial begins. BBC. The trial of media tycoon Jimmy Lai, who was arrested under Hong Kong's controversial national security law, NSL, has begun. Lai, who has been in custody since December 2020, is facing charges of colluding with foreign forces and could be sentenced to life imprisonment if found guilty. The case has attracted international attention and is seen as a test of Hong Kong's judicial independence. Lai's legal team has argued that he has been denied a fair hearing, as he was not allowed to choose his own legal representation and is being tried by judges handpicked by Hong Kong's leader. Secret spaceplane, links between China's most powerful leaders, 5 weekend reads. South China Morning Post. The article provides a summary of various news stories from Asia and beyond. These include the U.S. planning to launch a secret space plane ahead of China, a report on how Japan's host clubs are driving young women into debt and sex work, Hong Kongers gathering to watch China's homegrown C919 jet, the cultural significance of dragons in various cultures, and an exploration of the links between Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Communist Party's inner circles. Arrested in 2020, Hong Kong pro-democracy tycoon gets day in court. New York Times. Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai has appeared in court after spending 3 years in prison for charges relating to his pro-democracy activism. Lai has been charged with collusion with foreign forces under the national security law and could face life imprisonment if convicted. Lai is also serving a 5-year sentence in a fraud case and is currently held in solitary confinement. The charges against Lai have been criticized by human rights activists, as well as the US and UK governments, who argue that they are politically motivated. Since Lai's arrest, the city has undergone a significant change, with the government now having the power to vet election candidates and residents being encouraged to spy on their colleagues and neighbors. Lai's trial is seen as a test for Hong Kong's judicial system and its ability to interpret and enforce Beijing's national security law. The case has been criticized for violating Lai's right to a fair trial, while his prolonged detention before trial and the denial of his chosen lawyer have also been denounced. Historic trial against Hong Kong media tycoon charged under national security law begins. ABC. The trial of Hong Kong pro-democracy activist and publisher Jimmy Lai has begun in Hong Kong, marking the city's first trial on charges of collusion with foreign forces. Lai, who is charged with colluding with foreign forces to endanger national security and conspiring to publish seditious material, could face a potential life sentence if convicted. The trial is widely seen as a test of press freedom and judicial independence in Hong Kong. Lai was arrested in August 2020 under the sweeping national security law imposed by Beijing. Hong Kong's rebel mogul and pro-democracy voice. BBC. Jimmy Lai, the billionaire media mogul and prominent supporter of Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement, is on trial for colluding with foreign forces. Lai has denied all charges and faces a potential life sentence. Critics argue that his case highlights how Hong Kong's legal system is being used to silence political opposition. Lai, who has already been imprisoned for fraud and involvement in protests, is the most prominent person charged under Hong Kong's controversial national security law. Lai has been a vocal critic of the Chinese state and a leading advocate for democracy in Hong Kong. China wealth firm Haiwen vows to fix defaults as shares tank 59%. Bloomberg. Haiwen Wealth Management, a Chinese wealth manager, has pledged to address delayed payments on certain investment offerings it had distributed after its US-listed shares fell almost 60%. The firm has formed a task force to come up with a treatment plan by the end of the month. Haiwen worked with developers such as China Evergrande and Sunac China Holdings. The incident is another sign that China's property crisis is affecting middle-class families. Chatter about delayed payments on Haiwen's products emerged last week, causing shares in its US-listed entity Haiwen Holdings to fall by 43% on Wednesday. SenseTime plunges after death of China AI firm's co-founder. Bloomberg. Chinese AI firm SenseTime Group Incorporated saw its shares drop by as much as 18% following the unexpected death of co-founder Tang Xiaoyu. The company has been dealing with the impact of slowing growth and U.S. sanctions, including being blacklisted by the U.S. government in 2019. SenseTime has denied accusations of inflating revenues made by short seller Grizzly Research. Tang, who had a 21% stake in the company, was a pioneer in China's AI sector and played a key role in the development of SenseTime. The company has been considering raising funds and potentially spinning off its autonomous driving and healthcare units. Unit of world's largest nickel producer rises in Hong Kong debut. Bloomberg. Chinese battery maker REPT Batero Energy Company, a subsidiary of Tsingshan Holding Group, saw its shares rise by as much as 4.9% on its first day of trading in Hong Kong. The company raised approximately 2.1 billion Hong Kong dollars, $272 million, in its initial public offering, IPO, after selling 116 million shares at 18 Hong Kong dollars and 30 cents each. REPT Batero's IPO was priced near the lower end of the range. The company plans to use 80% of the proceeds to expand its production capacity. Pessimism abounds in Hong Kong's property market even as rate outlook improves. South China Morning Post. Home prices in Hong Kong are expected to drop next year, with CGS-CIMB Securities predicting a 3% fall and UBS forecasting a 10% decline. Despite positive interest rate outlook, analysts predict property prices will slip further due to factors such as abundant housing supply and high interest rates. However, demand from mainland Chinese buyers and rising rental yields should provide some support for home prices, according to Raymond Cheng, managing director at CGS-CIMB Securities. Asia stocks slide as Fed tempers strong pivot bets, markets wrap. Yahoo! Asian stocks have recorded their biggest drop in 2 weeks after U.S. Federal Reserve officials said it is too early to consider interest rate cuts. The MSCI Asia Pacific Index fell up to 1.1% after Australia, Japanese, and Chinese benchmarks fell. The dollar and Treasury yields were broadly steady. The pushback is expected to end the everything rally that saw shares in the U.S. and Asia record their biggest weekly gains in a month. The pushback from central bankers comes as traders bet on rate cuts next year. Jimmy Lai security trial opens in Hong Kong, UK urges immediate release. Al Jazeera. Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai has gone on trial for alleged national security offenses under China's national security law. Lai, a vocal critic of China, was initially arrested in August 2020 after police raided the offices of his newspaper, Apple Daily. The trial was delayed for a year after the government challenged Lai's choice of defense counsel, a UK-based lawyer. Lai and Apple Daily also face charges under a sedition law dating from the British colonial era. The UK, US, and EU have all called for Lai's immediate release. Lai has already been found guilty and jailed over separate cases. Philippines emerges as Asia's epicenter for online shopping scams. Nikkei Asia. The Philippines has been identified as Asia's worst country for online sales scams, according to a report by the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. The study found that 35.9% of Filipinos surveyed had fallen victim to fraud or scams whilst shopping online, with total reported losses amounting to over $2.8 million for the first 9 months of 2023. Turkish Airlines granted extra flights to Australia in new deal. The Sydney Morning Herald. Turkish Airlines will be able to fly up to 35 services to Australia following the addition of a set of coveted air rights. Under the new arrangement, Turkish Airlines will be allowed to launch its services to Australia with up to 21 flights instead of 7, increasing to 28 in 2024 and 35 in 2025. The carrier will be able to stop over in the Middle East or Singapore, which is expected to reduce costs for flights to Europe. Flights are due to start in March. Hong Kong publisher Jimmy Lai's trial begins as the West presses for his release. The Globe and Mail. Western leaders are calling for the immediate release of jailed Hong Kong pro-democracy newspaper publisher Jimmy Lai, on trial Monday for violating Beijing's national security law, which was imposed on the territory in 2020 and widely condemned as an attack on dissent and freedom of the press. Well, my dear viewers, we have quite the lineup of news stories today. From the trial of media tycoon Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong to the plummeting stocks in the region, there's no shortage of excitement. So, let's dive into it, shall we? First up, we have the trial of Jimmy Lai, the pro-democracy tycoon who has been making waves in Hong Kong. Lai is facing charges of colluding with foreign forces and could potentially be sentenced to life imprisonment. Now, this trial is not only significant for Lai himself but also serves as a test for Hong Kong's judicial system and its ability to uphold its independence. It's a case that has attracted international attention and has raised concerns about the erosion of press freedom and political opposition in Hong Kong. Moving on, we have some interesting stories from the world of finance. Hong Kong stocks have taken a hit due to concerns about China's economic recovery. And speaking of financial troubles, Chinese wealth manager Haiwen is facing a crisis of its own, with delayed payments causing its shares to tank. And let's not forget about SenseTime, the Chinese AI firm that saw its shares drop after the unexpected death of its co-founder. It seems like the financial world is always full of surprises, doesn't it? Now, let's turn our attention to the property market in Hong Kong. Despite a positive interest rate outlook, analysts are predicting a decline in home prices next year. Factors such as abundant housing supply and high interest rates are contributing to this pessimistic outlook. But hey, there's always a silver lining, right? Demand from mainland Chinese buyers and rising rental yield might just provide some support for home prices. So, it's not all doom and gloom in the property market. And finally, we have some news from around the world. The Philippines has been identified as the worst country in Asia for online sales scams, with a staggering number of Filipinos falling victim to fraud and scams while shopping online. And in the world of aviation, Turkish Airlines has been granted extra flights to Australia, which is sure to make travel between the two countries more convenient. Well, my dear viewers, that wraps up our news for today. We've covered a wide range of stories, from the courtroom drama of Jimmy Lai's trial to the ups and downs of the financial world. It's a lot to take in, I know, but I hope I've been able to provide you with some insights and a few chuckles along the way. Now, it's your turn. What are your thoughts on these news stories? Do you have any questions or comments? I'm all ears. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.